live stream.
Okay. I think it's happening. Maybe. Maybe I should open the
All
web
right.
page. Yeah.
There we are. And welcome to episode 3 of Jen and Paulina Talk Life After Academia. We are here for our third Monday. We've done it. we've we've arrived. We have shown up. And today we are going to talk about hosting workshops as an academic, either while you're still in academia or if you're thinking about leaving or if you've already left academia. What can it look like to host workshops, either uh, sponsored or offered by a particular institution or organization? Jen's going to talk about her experience with that. Or if you are going to host your own workshops on writing, publishing, research methods, whatever your expertise is, I'll talk a little bit about offering that, as your own business, your own self. So before we dive in, I wanted to say hi, Jen. I love your T-shirt, and let's see bonus points to anybody who shows up and can tell us in the chat what the references. I did not get it because I was not familiar, but I think it's lovely. What's new, Jen, before we dive in? How are things going?
What's new? Things are good. Things are good. I'm in my shirt aside, I'm in my baseball summer. It's turned out to be my baseball basketball summer. My Jays are sucking, but it's fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's fun. My next baseball game is Friday. Thank you.
exciting. I wish we had um baseball, somewhere to watch baseball here. The closest is Portland, which is what are they? The Sea Dogs are like a minor league for the Red Sox, I think, a minor team.
Oh, that's fun though.
But we've never been. It's like 3.5 hours away or so.
Oh, that's too far.
But
That's
I
too
do
far.
very much enjoy going to baseball games. It's been really hot here, probably there too. So we've been at the beach a lot and at the pool. But all right. Well, so what do we mean by workshops? I think when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking that, us people listening to this, um, we have expertise, we have knowledge, we know things that we can share with a particular audience, and we do that all the time as professors, but we often don't get paid very well for it, or we present at conferences, we share information, we don't get paid anything additional, compared to I can't talk today. Anything above our regular salary for it. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it looks like for somebody to um, deliver a workshop for a university or department or, some other organization? How does that work?
Yeah, thanks, Paulina. This is a great topic that you brought to us. Yeah, because I think it's highly relevant to our audience and also to us as business owners. Because yeah, I mean, I think one of the main ways of thinking about this, let's say two main ways of thinking about it. One is this is often this kind of interaction that you would have with other people, or this kind of work that you would do, the putting together of it is often something that people miss or think that they might miss when they move out of teaching or research. So this is a way of like scratching that itch, to use that metaphor. And of course, it's also a way to make money. Sorry, I'm editorializing, and I'm. What was your question?
Well, yes, and all of that, yes. And what does it look like? Like, why would a university or department, like, who is it? I guess, who are the types of people at universities or other institutions that look for, external experts like
Right,
us,
right, right.
to come in and give a talk? What are those kinds of talks usually about? How does that all work? If
Yeah.
somebody has expertise, um, let's start with just what does it look like to give a
Yeah.
workshop?
Yeah, like with any kind of, let's very, very broadly call it consulting, with any other kind of consulting, you're bringing in other people not as employees, you know, but as external experts who can come in and help you solve the problem when you don't have the, you know, the people on your own staff to do it. And then once that contract is up, whether it lasts an hour or longer, it's over, and people can go on their way. Um, yeah, so in my case, I had people contacting me to deliver talks and workshops. So yeah, like let me use both of those words here, talks and workshops. I had people contacting me to do that going back, I mean, more than 10 years now. So I started my business 13 years ago, and yeah, it's about that amount of time I've had folks at universities and then other organizations reach out to me, um, primarily to enhance, bolster, or form, yeah, let's say that, like primarily to enhance or bolster programming that they already have on, career job search, preparing to think about your job search for grad students and postdocs. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and so that's your area of expertise, right? As for grad students, postdocs, maybe some faculty who want to sneak into the talk or something.
Sometimes.
Um, how do you figure out your next steps beyond your, what you're doing in the academic institution? My question for you is, who is it at the university that usually gets in touch with you? Is this a
Yeah.
provost? Is this a graduate coordinator of a department? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question and a tricky one to answer. Because it depends, and of course, it depends on who ultimately has budget and controls that budget, or who can advocate for the people that control the budget. So there are a variety of different people that have reached out to me, and they work in and represent a variety of different funding sources. So let me think. So, for example, I've been contacted by individual professors. These individual professors, sometimes they have their own grant money to spend, like often folks in the sciences. They'll have a specific kind of grant that has a training component. And there's lots of different ways that they could spend that money for training. And one of those possible ways, is, you know, by offering a workshop or series of workshops or whatever else. And so that's happened. And so in that case, I deal directly with that professor, and maybe there's paperwork to fill out. But yeah, or there's other cases where there's a professor who doesn't necessarily like have funding from their own grants, but they are willing and able to advocate to get the money from the department or the faculty or whatever other sources. So that happens. Sometimes it's folks based in other units on campus, so not necessarily a department, right? That can happen, but other units, like at the faculty level, so a faculty of graduate studies or a faculty of arts and science, or right, et cetera. So that can happen. An obvious one for my work, because it's all about like, what do you do after a PhD? What do you do, you know, if you're a professor and you're moving on to a different career? An obvious place you would think would be career services. In my own personal experience, I haven't really been reached out to by career services. And I think it's because that they don't, like, they have their own programming, and they have less need for somebody like me as an external to come in. Although I'm sure I mean, I've done this so much often. I'm sure it's happened. I'm just not remembering, but like, that's not the typical one. And there could be other groups too. Like there are, especially in the science ecosystem, there's other groups like membership organizations that serve like individual scientists. Um, or yeah, and they might put together programming like for their membership, which can be people that have PhDs, aren't necessarily students, but have PhDs or master's degrees. And I've definitely worked with those group too. The most recent outreach I've gotten, let me think. One is a woman, yeah, from a faculty. Yeah, and she doesn't necessarily have the money, but she's gonna try and get it from some other departments. So she's faculty level and she's gonna see if she can get, a few $100 from other departments. So that's a good example. And then the other most recent one is a research funded, like multidisciplinary research training group. Yeah, research training group, like, externally funded, that's housed at one university, and is sort of administered at one university, but they have, like, the money doesn't come from that one university, it comes from an external grant. So yeah, like things that as an outsider you would never have heard of, but like, all these different acronyms. I'm going on and on and on. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what I think I'm hearing from you is that there are people inside a university, whether they are professors or college deans or staff of some kind, who see a need among their graduate students, their postdocs, whoever the target audience is, and they either don't have the expertise at the university itself, or it's easier or more desirable to pay an outside expert like you to come in and deliver the talk or the workshop rather than asking their own faculty, right? There are plenty of faculty at any institution who could give a talk on how do you apply for jobs or something, right? I mean, maybe there are, maybe there aren't, I guess. But like to ask them to teach this, right, would be adding more to their plate. And whereas I think it looks even better to have an outside expert like you come in and offer this kind of talk. And so I'm thinking, from the perspective of people listening to this video who are thinking, I'd really like to get paid money to give some kind of workshop. How might they think about coming up with a topic? Like maybe they're an expert in research methods, or maybe they're an expert in career advice, or, one example I'm thinking of, there's somebody in my program who he left academia several years ago. He's in STEM. He is passionate about helping postdocs to navigate that phase of their career. Like you can't stay in infinite postdocs forever. So what do you do? And he's actually been invited by a couple of universities to give talks like this for postdocs in STEM. And so I'm thinking, what advice can we give to people listening to help them think about what their particular workshop might be?
Yeah, I mean that's a fantastic topic. I mean, I think that the thing is, like, in general, is you are solving a problem, like, right, like this is just consulting, right, is like or any kind of job, right, like what is the problem that you help solve? And so if you think about it in those terms, well, I help solve the problem. Well, there could be multiple problems, but one is, students are stressed out about, like, their career prospects, right, and that has impacts kind of down the line. Students are lacking community and we want to help build that community. That's often like a secondary goal for folks like putting on workshops like mine. And you could, think about what are the problems that you're solving. Postdocs are stressed out about their career prospects. My students, my postdocs, my faculty, my staff, whoever it is, want to do X, Y, and Z, and they're not able to, and that is causing downstream negative impacts. So that could be all sorts of different things, research methods and publishing and, presenting and teaching effectiveness, blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. AI use, etc. Right?
Yeah, I
It's
think,
in
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
um sorry. Okay, it's noon, or it's 1 minute to noon. Acknowledge. Oh, I'm getting a notification to do something at noon. I'll do it after we're done.
Uh-oh.
Um, it's fine. Just taking a pill. I can wait. You okay, no, I'm distracted. Come back to me.
So I really like what you were saying about, think about what problem you can solve, right? Whatever your area of expertise is, whatever you're passionate about, think about what problem different universities have that you can come in and speak to their students, faculty, staff, whatever, and help them solve that problem. And then I would think the next step is to sort of come up with a title for the talk and an abstract for the talk. And maybe it involves, reaching out to people at different schools. Maybe you know somebody who's a dean or a provost or a whatever, and you could try to make those connections. How do you think? Because I know you haven't done outreach. People just kind of come to you because you have a reputation for being a fabulous speaker. How else might people start to build that thought leadership role, or some kind of platform for people to find them?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think all of what you said about how you might go about this in terms of putting together like your own portfolio. No, you didn't say that, but putting together a pitch, right? And fleshing that pitch out so that it's sort of a ready-made thing. Here, I do this, hire me. I'm simplifying, but like great. I mean, I think that's a great thing to do. Then, of course, the hard part is you have to tell people. You have to tell people about it. It can't just like be floating out there on the internet or in your, on your computer. That's not going to work. Um, yeah, in my case, it's interesting because the first person that reached out to me, it's because she was reading what I was writing on the internet. Now, this is going back some years and the internet has changed. So, like, don't necessarily do exactly as I did back then. But I think kind of being involved in a conversation and talking about the problem and like your approach to solving that problem, and then other people who are, involved in that conversation, which could be, for example, people that work at universities or other organizations, businesses, etc. They kind of notice that you're, as you use the term thought leader. Yeah, they notice your thought leadership in this. Um, and I think for me, because my audience is other PhDs and I have a PhD, I think there was sort of a built-in assumption that helped me, which is like, oh, of course you can do a workshop, right? Like that wasn't necessarily like true, but there, I think because people make this assumption, within university environments, that like if you, have a doctorate, you've done this kind of thing before. Anyways, I'm veering
But
from
that
your
is true,
point.
isn't it? Don't you think? I mean, because we're talking about like the marketing side of things is how do you get paid to do this? But I guess we should point out that we're sort of assuming that, people who are considering doing it do have that training, right? They do know how to put together some kind of talk or workshop.
Yeah, me back then, I've learned some things. I've learned some things. I've learned some things about learning outcomes and building slide decks, etc. Um, yeah. Anyways, yeah, but yes, I think folks with like who have more teaching experience, excuse me, than I did back then, will naturally be better at this than I maybe was in my very first outing. Um, yeah, I mean, the model that you described, which is, pick a title. I'm simplifying, right? But like, here's my title, here are my learning outcomes or my blurb or whatever it is. Here's who it's for, then shop it around. Like, great. I mean, that's absolutely something that you can do and is successful. The other thing is more of it's maybe more of a long-term strategy of being involved in the conversation and then have others reach out to you, which is my approach, because exactly as you say, I haven't necessarily done my own outreach, and we can talk about why, but probably doesn't matter for this conversation. People come to me, and then my preference always, and still to this day, my preference is always like, okay, what is your need? Like, what's going on? What are the students report? Like, what are they talking about? Like, what's missing in your programming? What's already going on? What's going to be before and after me? If I came in and did this thing, and then together have that conversation, and then I would go and put together basically a pitch. So I would then come up with suggested titles and learning outcomes based on that conversation, and run it by the people. Now, usually at this point, people are like, great, that sounds great. Like, we don't care, Jen, it's fine. Like and then I customize, right? Like sometimes it's not, it repeats things I've done before, but I always customize. And that's so important for me because yeah, that's important for me. For my type of clients, that's not necessarily the right thing to do always, depending on like your expertise and the clients that you're working with. Um, what's my point? There's different models that suit different people and different kinds of clients. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Um, We had a couple people join us, so
Oh, cool.
we did start a little bit early today. So apologies to anybody who was targeting noon as our start time, but I have to head out for something in about 15 minutes, so we started early. But please drop your questions in the chat if you have any questions for Jen about hosting paid workshops at universities or other organizations. You know, how do you land those gigs? How do you craft the content for those gigs? And do you want to share, give us like a kind of an idea of what you can get, what people could get paid? What is the
Hmm.
going rate for, say, a 90-minute talk? Just,
Yeah,
ballpark. What, like, just so people know that this is actually worth their time and effort.
yeah. This is a this is a question. This is a question, and you would think at this point in my career, having been doing this for 13 years, with more or less frequency. I, this is not my main way of making money, let's say, but I do it regularly every year. Yeah, I don't have an answer to you. There's such a big range. I'll give an example to showcase, I think, part of the range here. A few years back, I did a workshop. It was online slides. It was, more talking head, but there was some interaction with the audience. But in my head, it was a workshop. And I got paid $500. Now, back then, I knew that this was like a discounted rate, but there were other benefits that I saw. And in fact, I did get hired by a couple other people out from that. So, anyways, just to say, like, that was low at that point, but I went into it kind of happy with that. So I found out later that at that same event, somebody else did, we were slotted in the same kind of thing on 2 different days. So we were sort of billed in the same kind of way externally, but internally we were seen as very different. Whereas I had a particular audience and was putting together like an online like workshop. This other person had more of a keynote speaker model. Even though we were called the same thing on the program, this person got paid $5,000. Now, all power to her, right? Like, but you can imagine that I felt a certain kind of way when I found out about that. So, it is what it is. I can't blame anybody, but kind of still feel maybe a bit salty about the people. There were clearly people who knew that this was happening, and I'm maybe not thrilled about those people making that choices. But anyways, just to say, right, like there is such a range from like zero, obviously zero is a very real possibility, right? You get paid nothing or you get asked to pay nothing to do it for nothing and you don't necessarily have to agree. I am doing something for free next month. I'm happy about it, but right, there's reasons, but I'm getting paid nothing. But yeah, and then this professors who move into more of a keynote talk situation where they can for sure like make several $1,000s. I'm not answering question.
Well,
These days, yeah.
I think that's a great story because to me it highlights the fact that if you are going to go into this kind of partnership with a university, you should advocate for yourself. And I'm sure that you do that more now. You're not getting paid $500 a talk nowadays because you've been around the block a few times. And I can at least say, knowing from various people in my programs who do this kind of thing, for a 90-minute talk, if it's paid, they can get paid around $2,000 or so. And which for me, I feel like that's not that bad, right? For a 90-minute talk. And I think to your point that maybe sometimes it is worth it to do it for free. I have somebody in my academic entrepreneurs studio who just gave a free talk to I think it was an academic conference, an association that put this on. It wasn't during the conference. I think it was shortly after the conference. It was all on Zoom. She had 50 people that showed up. It was free. But the topic was exactly what she works on in her business with people. And so that has already turned into one person who immediately enrolled in her $1,600 group coaching program that's starting this fall, and that came out of that talk. And so I'm sure there will be, with 50 people who showed up live and 80 who signed up, that she now has their email addresses. You can do it for free, but really it's a marketing tactic basically, where you're giving this free information, but you're also showcasing your expertise. So
Yeah.
yeah, any final
Yeah.
thoughts on that before we go to the more of the, I'll kind of highlight the, if you do this by yourself kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great example because what I have been talking about so far is when I'm hired outright by somebody else, some other organization, to do this. And in those cases, like for me, I don't approach it as a marketing opportunity. It is going to naturally be, but like I don't take that kind of mindset going in. I take the mindset of you are the client and like this is what you want for your, students or members or whoever it is. But I'm working for you as the client and I want you to be happy. And of course, I want to have a good experience. If I get other work out of it, that's great. But like, I'm not making like an obvious sales pitch during it. I have done, what you've described, which is a different kind of thing. Yeah, in terms of pricing, I think one thing to mention is that depending on the work, it just depends on the work that goes into it, but there can be a lot more work than you realize that can go into it. Like I had a gig where I was doing, yeah, 90-minute online workshop is like a usual thing for me. And I have sort of a price in mind that I pitch, like, sure, $2,000. That sounds great. Let's say that. But I had this situation a few years back, where it was a university in a different country, and there ended up kind of in the midway through the process, a 50-page contract. I suddenly was like, oh shit, I need to hire a lawyer. So I had to go back to the client and say like, okay, I need to up the fee because I now have to hire a lawyer for this. It just didn't feel great, but like it's just real, right? Like if I hadn't have done that, I couldn't have continued because I would have worked for free, right? I would have been paying the lawyer and working for free. So yeah, like things can get expensive, right? It's not just about your time and expertise and the money that you might assign to that and the money that you need to kind of run the business of doing workshops, because sometimes now I'm the one paying for the Zoom room. I'm the one, paying for the transcription, yeah, subtitles. I'm the one like hosting the video recordings. That's increasingly been something that folks are asking for me, and that costs money to be able to manage all of that. So I think there's things that folks might not think of that can go into this, and the cost can add up. And so just to use the $500 example, I think that's like a nice payoff for a professor doing a workshop off the side of their desk, for example. But that's not going to cut it, as sort of a typical rate. I mean, that's just not a possibility for the kind of work, the money, let's say, like what it costs to actually do this. $500 doesn't pay for it. So definitely aim higher than that.
Yeah. I do think though that it is a natural opportunity for people, especially the ones that have been teaching a while, that have given conference presentations. Maybe they've done workshops for free at conferences or something. Maybe they've hosted roundtables, or been on roundtables. And I think that, when we are in academia, we don't realize that that these are some of the skills that we have. I think that's one of the biggest questions that people ask is what the heck do I have that are transferable skills, And when you try to communicate that on a one-page resume for like an industry job, it's so hard to do because we just speak different languages than folks in industry do. But you do have skills, and there are markets, there are clients out there, be it universities or, other organizations, think tanks, um, even just private individuals who want to learn a skill or who want to learn from you something. They are willing to pay to learn from you, because I think the biggest, um what's the word I'm looking for, the biggest commodity, I guess, that you have is your knowledge, and is your, um just anything that you can teach to other people, which is exactly what we do as professors. And so I think we just have to kind of realize that people are willing to pay for knowledge and for expertise, and those years of experience that you've built up, that seems easy and seems like nothing to you because you talk all day long about quantitative methods or data analysis or whatever. But to other people who don't have that information, it is extremely valuable.
Yeah, and just to continue on, it's not only information, it's also about, facilitating an experience, education. These things are highly valued and necessary by other organizations. Yeah, and I wouldn't discount any of that. And, depending on your topic, you can get paid a lot of money for this stuff. And, for my examples, I prefer to do things online. I mean, that's pretty much what I do only now is online. I really like Zoom. Yeah, it works for me. But, you can be traveling the world, giving talks, facilitating workshops, and that can spin out into all kinds of other things. So anyways, I'm happy to provide examples, but you can go far and beyond what I do too.
Yeah. Well, I have to hop off to go to an appointment, but I think this was a great conversation, and I think if folks think about what is the knowledge and expertise that you have that helps people solve a problem, then definitely think about how you can turn that into some kind of talk or workshop and pitch it to um, other groups, or just start talking about it on LinkedIn or Threads or Blue Sky or wherever you are these days, and that will get the attention of people who need that kind of support. Um, so thanks to folks who were here. Hope you enjoy the recording. We're still waiting for somebody to identify Jen's t-shirt. So leave a comment on the YouTube video on the recording if you know what it is, and you'll get a bonus cheer shout out from us in one of our posts. Maybe next week we can talk about doing paid workshops if you're just hosting them yourself, or we'll
Mm,
see. So
juicy,
um
juicy topic.
thank you all for being here. Thank you. Good to see you, Jen, and we'll be back next Monday.
Yeah, thank you.